Can we hear each other? Okay, we can see you, but not hear you. Can you switch on the
Can you hear me? Yes.
Yes,
Can you hear me?
now. Yes,
Great.
please, the floor is yours.
Thank you. Good afternoon. Since the field of marine microbiology is maybe not so well known in Slovenia, I felt I need to do a little bit of an introduction to the topic. As you can all probably imagine, oceans and seas are the largest continuous ecosystem on Earth, and they are constantly subjected to multiple natural and anthropogenic perturbations. In a single milliliter of seawater, we have even up to 10 to the 6, so million bacteria and other microorganisms. And these creatures are actually the tiniest inhabitants of the ocean, but at the same time are the most abundant, metabolically active, and diverse inhabitants of marine food web. And because of their size and their incredible abundance, activity, and diversity, they are actually almost exclusively interacting with a very big pool of complex organic compounds present in the ocean. And this is the salt organic matter pool. In fact, the salt organic matter pool is one of the largest reservoirs of carbon in our biosphere. And this is why microorganisms in the ocean have a major impact on global biogeochemical cycles and the global climate. And we could say very poetically that microbial processes are actually underlying the collective metabolism of the ocean. And they are influenced by environmental and anthropogenic forcing and governed by the laws of physics and chemistry. So, in our 2-year study, can you move to the next slide, please? Thank you. In our 2-year study, we investigated how different fluctuations of environmental parameters, either occurring naturally or induced by anthropogenic forces, are structuring and influencing the microbial community in this highly dynamic coastal ecosystem of the Gulf of Trieste. We wanted to understand the potential link between the community dynamics and all these environmental parameters. And we employed the prediction power of the association network analysis, in which we fed with these long-term measurements of different parameters, both physical, chemical, microbial. And these interaction maps that we can see here on the slide actually help us to visualize these interactions and give us and offer us valuable insight into the response of the marine ecosystem to climate and anthropogenic-driven stresses. What we found out was that even though this area is very shallow, the Gulf of Trieste, the Slovenian part of it, doesn't really exceed 30 meters, the community is very different at the surface and at the bottom. And at the bottom, it's much more diverse and is very much influenced by the sedimentary suspension. On the other hand, on the surface, the seawater temperature has a profound effect on the metabolic activity of microbial community. And this can be very important in the light of the climate change, where we are even like prognosing the increase of the seawater temperature. At the same time, the structure of the community on the surface is very influenced by the fresh waterborne nutrients and different phytoplankton bloom. What does this mean? It means that basically the rivers coming into the area are bringing nutrients that are causing the phytoplankton to bloom and are influencing the microbial community, the structure of it. So how is it composed? We also showed the importance of the water mass movements, both being as the source of the fresh waterborne nutrients and at the same time of autonomous microbial taxa, meaning the taxa that is otherwise not so commonly observed in marine systems, but is brought to the system via freshwater discharges. And this taxa can be even potentially pathogenous. Thank you for your attention, and I open this presentation for discussion or any potential questions.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Please, I ask the audience to pose questions. We have a question from Robert Primk.
Hello, I am wondering, considering that in last 6 months we had a lockdown and we saw on internet and news many pictures from Venice, how everything now that water is cleaner. Have you in your studies and analysis also noticed this difference? Is it important enough so that the pollution is now not so prevalent as it was before, or is it kind of similar as it was before? Thank you.
Well, thank you. Well, the pollution is very broad term. The transparency of the water in the Venice Lagoon was probably due to the less maritime traffic. Of course, there are other sources of pollution, which is just simply like wastewaters entering the system. I'm sure that this didn't really change. And there are even like currently studies investigating how much of, for example, coronavirus is discharged via wastewater discharges into the marine systems. This is, of course, largely unknown. But yeah, the transparency of the seawater in general doesn't mean that it's not polluted. So I would be very careful with that. But of course, due to the lockdown, we didn't sample now. So.
Okay, thank you for the presentation and answer.
Thank you.
We will continue with next presentation by Veronika Kralj-Iglic. Can we hear each other?